All right. Sweet.
All right. All right. Hi, everybody. Thanks again for joining me and Dr. Phil Finemore of WorkFitME. So today we're going to go over posture and how we can really improve stuff that we do at home or just where we're working, all that stuff, so we can improve our posture and just live a better life. Let's just give you a little overview on Dr. Phil Finemore. He's owner of WorkFitME, mobile physical therapy to help busy made professionals improve their physical performance so they can live a happy, healthy, and wealthy life with their loved ones. He is passionate about helping people ensure their number one asset in life, their body and health, gives them the best return, biggest return on investment, and abundance of life, doing what they love with who they love. Here's Dr. Phil Finemore.
Evan, thank you so much as always for that great introduction. And thank you for kind of partnering with me and sort of hosting the event with me here. These workshops that we've been doing have been a lot of fun. So Evan's been great. And I've had the pleasure a couple times of popping in at EA Fitness and Performance up there. He's got a great facility and doing a lot of really good work with people. So definitely check him out too. You'll get a bunch of his contact information in the follow-up email from the workshop too. So be on the lookout for that. So as Evan said, we're going to be going into kind of a combination of things with how to help people manage that home office situation a little bit better. Most of us have been stuck in that for a year now, right? So some people longer than that because it was part of your life before. But for those people that it happened to abruptly, or they just have general changes in sort of their workplace setup, just wanted to go over a few quick key things today. And then we're actually going to talk about how we can just be making some adjustments to our posture throughout the day, and why that can be important for a few key areas for people that do more office type work, do more computer-based work, areas that I see that people typically have some problems with, what that can interfere with, and how we can prevent that and help it, right? If you have something active going on, we'll give you a few tips and tricks to kind of calm that down. And we're also going to break the myth that that perfect posture exists. Okay. Because there is no such thing as perfect posture. And we will definitely get into that. So before we get started, what I want you all to do in the chat is let us know if you're working on a desktop or a laptop when you're doing your work. And if you're working from a laptop, follow it up with a either yes or no answer to this question. And that is, do you use an external mouse and keyboard? Okay. So for example, if you work on a laptop, your answer in the chat would be laptop, and then yes, because you have it, or no, because you don't have those things that I mentioned. We'd just love to get an idea of what people work on, what they're using to work, and we can go from there. Good. Laptop. Yes. Great. Give people a minute or so here to do this. Laptop, no, and cell phone. Okay. Great. Good information. Another thing we can throw in there is, I'll let everybody, I'll give everybody a chance to answer here. If you've already answered the first question, let us know if you have a sit to stand option in the chat. So go ahead and type in the chat, and you can just type in yes or no to that. No. Okay. Stand. Okay. So is that stand only, Odell? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Cool. All right. So a little bit of everything by the looks of it. So that's great. So like I said, I wanted to start a little bit with some of that ergonomic setup stuff, because these two things go hand in hand. Okay. A lot of you that work in the office setting, well, heck, if you work for any corporation over the past probably 7 years or so, 7 to 10 years, the idea of ergonomics has become kind of a hot button topic for a lot of people, right? A lot of places are putting a lot of emphasis on that. However, what I find is the emphasis on it is the ergonomic setup itself, right? So sit to stand workstation, how far away is your computer monitor from you? Are your arms, elbows bent at a 90-degree angle? You know, do you have the right supportive chair, your feet flat on the floor, all those good things, which is great. But the top two reasons in the most recent workplace injury data that we have that people continue to miss work and have workers' compensation claims due to pain are soreness and pain, strains and sprains, and sort of overuse type injuries, a very high majority of which are incredibly preventable. Okay. So those have all gone down pretty steadily over the past 7 to 10 years because our focus on ergonomics is a lot better. However, the 2 or 3 most preventative causes for those injuries and for those for that data are things that can be prevented. So that means we're still missing a piece of that puzzle, and that's where some of the corrective, postural corrective and body mechanics situations come in. Right? We can have your workplace setup as perfect can be, but if we don't then address the person within that setup and how they're moving or not moving during the day, we're gonna miss the boat. Okay, we're gonna miss a whole lot of that. One of the biggest, kind of scariest statistics from that data that makes me really passionate about trying to help people with both sides of this coin. And Evan, I think you and I have talked about this before. This was in 2019. That's the most recent data that we have. People who had an amputation at work, okay, so they lost part of their body at work due to a workplace injury, missed 30 days of work, roughly. That was the median. So it wasn't the average, but that was right in the middle. You missed about 30 days of work. People who are suffering from carpal tunnel syndrome, which is a nerve irritation at the wrist, missed 31 days of work. So they missed actually one more day than people who lost a limb or at least part of their body at work. And we can't really always prevent an amputation. We can if we're using proper safety procedures and everything, but sometimes accidents happen. But carpal tunnel, irritation on a nerve that originates from our neck and travels down through what we call the thoracic outlet here, down the arm, through the wrist and the carpal tunnel here, and then out into the hand, we can definitely prevent inflammation or other structures pressing on that nerve. Okay. So the fact that people who are suffering from a nerve irritation that is preventable missed actually one more day than people who lost a body part at work, kind of takes me aback a little bit, and just tells us that there's some more that we can be doing here to make sure that people aren't wrecking their bodies while they're trying to earn a living for themselves and their loved ones, and then they can't enjoy it when they're outside of work, when they clock out. So, because as we all know, those things don't leave us when 5 o'clock hits. You know, when your work day's done, those things don't stay at the home office or at the office. They come with you and interfere with what you're doing at home. So, because there was a fair amount of people. So let's kind of tackle the laptop and external mouse and keyboard thing. Okay. So with a laptop, and I brought this up because so many people are using these now. One, just because they're somewhat more convenient as a primary computer. It's what I have. But a lot of people, when the whole work from home transition happened last year, were sort of shuffled home really quick and, hey, here's a company laptop and go do your work from home on that. The reason why I asked the external mouse and keyboard question is when we look at being in some of the better, less stressful positions, again, because there's no such thing as perfect posture, but we want your ergonomic setup to support positions that are going to be less stressful for certain structures in our body, specifically our nerves and certain muscles and tendons as well. On a laptop, there is no way for our neck and shoulder area, I like to call it the schneck, okay? There's no way our schneck can be in a good position if the laptop is in a flat, good position for our arms, right? For our arms to be comfortably at our sides, elbows bent at 90 degrees like we like to be. And there's no way for our arms to be in the right position if we have the screen up so that we're looking straight ahead, because then our arms are up here like this, right? Trying to type on the keyboard and use the mouse. So it's not until we have that external mouse and keyboard that we can be in a more helpful position for that whole schneck area, okay? Because with the external mouse and keyboard, we're able to get the laptop up, okay? So that the top of that screen is at about eyebrow level, which is kind of roughly where you want the top of your computer screen, and your arms can be rested comfortably at your side with a 90-degree bend at your elbow. Okay, so these things are all important to work together, because again, there's no positions you should stay in all the time. However, spending hours and hours with your arms up like this typing so your neck's in a good position is going to wear on that schneck and wear on your shoulder, the rotator cuff, put extra stress on your wrist and elbow area. And being the other way, having it down so your arms are in a good position, eventually we're all going to wind up like this, right? Looking down at that computer screen, or I know someone said that they use a cell phone as well, right? So working off our cell phone like this here, eventually those things are going to put us in positions for really prolonged periods of time that put a little more stress on certain structures in this area, specifically our nerves, and tightening up some muscles that restrict some nerves and restrict good movement around our shoulder and neck, and can lead to some issues down the road. So again, we need to have that good ergonomic position in that area, but we also need to work some of the postural corrective type stuff, which we'll get to in a second. Any questions on the laptop external mouse and keyboard situation before we address the sit to stand thing? Anything you wanted to throw in or add there, Evan?
No, I think you made some very good points in terms of positioning of just like the screen and having your head tilted down. Like, yeah, you made some really good points there. Okay,
perfect. Yeah, so let's talk about the sit to stand thing. And I did get a question sent to me ahead of time about some of this. So I want to just pull that up real quick. So the sit to stand thing is a big hot button issue as well. And Evan, I'm sure you get a few of these questions from time to time too. Sitting is the new smoking. You should never sit. It's terrible for you. All this good stuff. And I'm on board with moving more and being up on our feet more, using our muscles a little bit more. I am 100% on board with that for sure. But the best way to go about that, especially if you have a way to transition, and if you don't, maybe look into it, because there are some very very cost-effective options. I actually have a tabletop conversion sit to stand desk where I literally just hit a lever and I can lift my whole desk up so I can stand, and it's still in a nice comfortable position where I can sit. It's not perfect. I still have to use a few books and make a couple of adjustments to my chair when I'm sitting, but it can keep me in some comfortable positions. But if we can have a balance between those two things, because I agree, sitting more is probably worse than standing more for a few different health reasons. And we have some good research that shows us that. However, whenever we keep our body in a position all the time, we're just opening our bodies up to adapting to that position and accommodating to that position. Okay. Our bodies are master compensators almost to a fault. Okay. So and that's why there's no such thing as perfect posture keeps coming up, because if I was like a tin soldier and stood like this all the time, whenever my life required me to then move out of that position, I could potentially be setting myself up for problems if certain areas of my body are not able to do what I'm asking them to do in that situation. Right. So we got to keep it up. We got to keep that variety going in order to make sure that certain areas aren't getting too tight, certain areas aren't getting too weak and inactive, and we need to keep that balance. So that's why I like the switch on and off to sitting and standing option. So having a convertible desktop desk if you're at home, there are some on Amazon. The one that my wife and I both have, we're both working stationed out of our home. I think with tax and everything, it was like $163 or something like that. Very affordable. Sits right on top of the desk. All you got to do when you pull it out of the box is slide the little keyboard tray on, and it slips right in. I can throw the link to it in the email actually, because I like it so much that I recommend it to a lot of people. But having that option to stand up and sit down is a great way to just keep yourself moving throughout the day, which is a huge tip in all of this, right? Again, the ergonomics are important, but if we don't work your body the right way within that setup, we could still be setting ourselves up for some overuse type injury and pain. The recommendation I generally have for sitting versus standing is to be switching back and forth between the two every 45 minutes to an hour or so. Okay. So sit for about 45 minutes, get up, go get some more coffee, water, whatever you need to drink. Maybe even just walk around a little bit, just move if you've been there for about 45 minutes to an hour. When you come back to your desk, pop that desk up to the standing position, stand for about that 45 minutes to an hour, and then switch. Now, some people have work tasks that don't allow them to have that much freedom all the time, and they've got to be in some of those positions for a little bit longer, and that's okay, right? I just think the real take-home point is here that we're not spending, 3-4 hours or even the whole day in the exact same position and only moving around when we're about to not make it to the bathroom in time or something. Some of us get so engrossed in our work that we don't move until we absolutely have to. So just setting yourself some reminders to move a little more frequently and then switching your position up between those two spots is a great way to go. Give yourself, even if the only break you take is to stand your desk up and stand and then keep working, that's okay, because you're still switching up your position, you're still moving, and you're still going to offload some of that potential stress that could be contributing to some problems that we commonly see in this area. I'm starting to have issues from standing all the time. Yeah. It's actually, I don't know if anyone here is a fan of the show The Office, but they had an episode where one of the people in their office stood all the time, and it became sort of a running joke that it was actually, he felt much worse from trying to stand for 8 hours straight and never sit. Right. So it was a satire on the situation, but it's true that if you go to the very extreme of that and you stand constantly, there are certain things that over time, it might not happen in 1 8-hour day, but if you're doing that same one thing for hours and hours on end, days on days, weeks on weeks, yeah, our bodies are going to develop certain compensations and modifications, and we might already have some underlying areas that are out of balance a little bit, right? Certain areas that are tight, certain areas that are weak and not working right. And some of these positions, whether it's sitting for 8 hours or standing for 8 hours, exaggerate those, right? And bring them on more because we're already compensating for them. When we compensate for them more, maybe the position that we're in actually feeds into the problem a little bit more. And slowly over time, it goes from, that ache in my knee or my back or my neck or whatever it is comes and goes, and it starts to come and go more often. And eventually it comes and it doesn't go. Right. And that's usually when we wait to reach out for help. But even if you're in that coming and going stage, that's a good time to get some help and address that, because if we address those imbalances I just talked about, and Evan, I know you see this and work on this a lot with your folks. It's part of your intake that you do with folks, and me as well. The sooner we address those imbalances, even if it bothers me from time to time, but not all the time, we can make sure that it never gets to that point where it comes and doesn't go. Right, Evan?
Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. So any questions on that sit to stand situation? Did that all make sense? Okay. And we'll definitely have time for question and answers at the end. And I'm just trying to look at these questions I got ahead of time here from some folks. All right. The other question was about stretches and whatnot. And we're going to jump into that here now, I think, because those are really the ergonomic stuff I really wanted to touch on. I think those are the most important things for people. Obviously, if you have a question for us about your specific ergonomic setup, feel free to reach out to me anytime, and we can take a look at it, and then personalize even some of these things we're about to talk about and go over. So let's talk a little bit about some of the things we can do to address some of the body mechanics and sort of the person in that ergonomic setup. Evan, what types of things have you seen? Have you seen any trends recently of people coming in that do kind of work from home, that areas that they have some concerns with at all? Have you seen any patterns recently?
I think a lot of the things I've been seeing is people getting a lot of upper neck tightness, like up in their traps. Mm-hmm. And I've gotten some complaints about their lower back because they're just constantly sitting all day. And like you said, they're just not they don't have that balance of like sitting to standing, right? So that's a lot of the stuff that I've been seeing with my clients.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. Same here. And when that upper trap stuff, and I'm going to show you a few things, few pictures of these things so you can visualize it well here in just a second. But when this upper trap stuff up here, so the upper trap is this bigger, bulkier muscle up here at the top of the shoulder. Again, that schneck area where that shoulder meets the neck. It's not an actual anatomy term, but I think it should be, because it's the perfect description of that area. That upper trap, there's also a small muscle that sits underneath it that connects from the top of your shoulder blade up to the upper two levels of your neck, called the levator scapula muscle. That one is also a contributor to upper neck and headache pain in some ways, contributor to some shoulder tightness and pain, and can be a contributing factor to some nerve irritation coming from the neck and some other things. Those areas are commonly tight in just about everybody, even if they aren't an office worker, because all of us have these things, right? And we're on them plenty when we're not working. And those of us that work on a computer and do things on our phone are even on them when we're not working some, right? So we tend to be in positions that bring our shoulders forward, bring our head and neck forward, which causes these areas to be tight, causes some postural stability muscles around our shoulder blades to get stretched out and to not work as well. And we start overusing these muscles. Okay. So I want to show you something real quick of why that can cause a problem. So when we get into these types of positions, I'm exaggerating a little bit here, but when we get into these types of positions, okay, and we're looking up at the world around us like this, right? Because we don't do this to look up if we're rounded through our upper back. We just lift our head up. We get compression here. We get sort of a increase in mobility in the middle of our neck, and we're really tight and rounded at the top of the neck and back. Okay. So I want to just share my screen with you real quick and show you an image just so you can get an idea of what we're talking about here. So if we look at just a little bit of the anatomy of the neck, you can see all these little yellow things here are nerves that come out between each of the vertebrae. There's also, this is unique to the neck, arteries and veins that go up each side of the neck. So this area up here, when we're in that really forward head position that I just showed you, gets compressed. This area down here gets kind of rounded and tight. And a lot of the movement in your neck starts coming from these areas right here. Okay. So it's pretty common for people to have this C5, C6 nerve, maybe even a little bit of this C7 nerve here. And that just means the level of the spine that they come out from, get irritated and cause pain that radiates out across the shoulder like this, might come down the outside of the arm, maybe wrap around the elbow in some way, come down into the forearm. That is also where the nerve that is implicated in carpal tunnel syndrome, that's kind of the area that it starts from. So that nerve has roots that go all the way back to that C5, C6, C7 area. A reason why I think people with carpal tunnel syndrome miss more days of work on average than people who maybe lost a limb at work is because everyone thinks it's coming from here, but it could be a problem up here and they're not addressing it. Okay. That's why we need to take this from sort of a top-down approach. And that's what we're going to show you today with some of the corrective things that we're going to talk about. Okay. So again, when we have that compression up here, you could see there's a lot of nerves in that area that come out and can cause headache pain. They can cause neck pain. The nerves down here can cause that localized neck pain and that schneck pain, that could radiate down into the arm, could cause numbness and tingling in the arm and hand as well. There are some other structures here that contribute to that. Let me show you this one real quick. This is a view of it's called the suboccipital region. It's right where the base of your skull meets the top of your neck. You can see all these nerves that come through these small muscles here that come out of the spine and come through these muscles. Those get compressed. Those cause headaches. Okay. And then one other quick one I wanted to show you was the scalenes muscles here. So these are two muscles right on the side of your neck, very small muscles right on the side of your neck. And all of the nerves that come out of those levels of the spine that we showed you on the first picture come through this area right here, as well as this artery. Okay. Believe it or not, compression of the vasculature, the artery in this area and around the pec area where it runs through as well, can prevent some inflammatory markers in our body that can show up in things like tennis elbow and contribute to the worsening of a tennis elbow situation, because that inflammation has nowhere to go. It can't get out of that area because the vasculature up in this area is not working right. So that's a part of it too. It's not just overuse of those tendons in that tendonitis. It can actually be that inflammation can't get out, right? So it stays there and gets worse. But so you can see that all of these structures really interact together and can lead to a lot of different irritation in a lot of different areas. Okay. So those few areas we just talked about are the main culprits that we see for that neck, shoulder pain and other symptoms down into the arm and even into the hand. So if we correct things kind of from the top and then kind of work our way down, it's going to help us potentially get more to the source of the problem. Okay. So let's, any questions on those couple of things before we go on? Anything to add in there at all, Evan?
No, we're good.
No, good. Okay. So let's go over, I want to go over one little muscle activation exercise that can help you not only correct some of the positions that we tend to be in that can cause stress on those structures we just talked about, but can also help support you in that position. And then we're going to go over a couple of quick stretches to focus on some of those muscles that can cause some issues. And then I know Evan will probably have a couple things to go off of from that we can hone in on as well, that people can work on. Okay. So the first, that muscle activation exercise we're going to do, all you're doing is bringing your shoulder blades down and back, like you're putting them in your back pockets. Okay. It's a super small motion. You can see how small my shoulders are moving. I'm not strapping myself down or arching my back at all. It's just my shoulder blades down and back, putting them in your back pockets. Okay. You hold that for about 3 to 5 seconds and relax. I usually have people do about 30 of those at a time. And I tell people to focus on doing that like 5 times a day. Okay. And the reason I give 5 times a day is so that you just keep it in the forefront of your mind a little bit, right? You're thinking about it, because what that does by opening up here, you've got to be sitting up straight to really do it. And by opening up here, we're out of this position. We're working a muscle that works opposite these muscles that are always tight and can cause a lot of those issues we just talked about. Okay. And not only are you getting in that position that's a little less stressful for you, you're supporting yourself in it, right? Because if we just asked you to sit up straight all the time, but you didn't have the right musculature working to help get you there and help hold you there, you're not going to do it, right? You're not going to be able to sustain it, right? So this not only gets you in the position, it helps support you in that position a little bit as well. Okay. That one easy enough. Good with that one. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. The couple of stretches that I want to take you through, I use for people not only as a way to build flexibility, but I also include them in what I like to call a micro stretching program. Okay. So the difference between stretching for flexibility and the micro stretching program is when we stretch for flexibility, which I recommend we do both with these muscle groups because they're so commonly tight for people. Stretching for flexibility, we have to hold these stretches a little bit longer and do them a little more repetitively and frequently throughout the day. Okay. That's what's going to build flexibility in that tissue, actually improve the length of the tissue. The micro stretching is shorter bouts of stretching. So that's what we're going to do when we're building the flexibility. We're going to hold these positions for 30 seconds and do about 3 rounds on each side, 2 to 3 times a day. The micro stretching, you're going to do every 1 to 2 hours, and you're going to hold each of these positions for 10 seconds on each side. Okay. And that's it. Just little 10-second bouts. So if you do the whole routine I give you, it's going to take you about a minute every 1 to 2 hours. There's a couple other stretches you can throw in there that kind of winds up extending the whole program to about 2 minutes. But I want to start with these couple because I think they're the bigger bang for your buck stretches. Okay. For these areas up here. So when we combine those two things, we're getting flexibility because let's say morning, noon, and night, we're doing the longer bouts of stretching. And the micro stretching does 3 things. It gets some blood flow into that area. It gives some good input from our nerves to those muscles that just makes those nerves and things feel good. So if they're a little tight, little achy, little sore, you get that mid-morning or early afternoon achiness going up here. It can help calm that down a little bit just from the nervous system feeling a little bit better. And it does a real good job getting us out of those positions that tend to cause more stress on these places. Okay. So those 3 things all work together for the micro stretching. So the first stretch we're going to do is for that upper trap that Evan mentioned and that we talked about a little bit. So if you're sitting in a chair, and if you're not sitting in a chair, you don't have to, this isn't a huge thing, but it can help. If you're sitting in a chair, if we're going to stretch the right side, take your right hand and grab the bottom of the chair that you're sitting on. Okay. Up nice and tall. And you're just going to gently tilt your head to the left. Okay. Now, if you're standing, you can put your arm behind your back and get a similar situation as grabbing the bottom of the chair. And you only want to go until you start to feel a stretch out through here. Okay. Don't feel a stretch and then go further. That can actually make things a little worse for what we're trying to do with this. And you're going to hold that, like I said, 30 seconds, and then you can switch sides, do 3 rounds of that 3 times a day. You can also do 10 seconds on each side every 1 to 2 hours for the micro stretching program. Okay. And that should feel really good. It does for everybody, even people that work on some of this stuff. This is a big area that I work on quite a lot. And then, like I said, you can switch sides. Okay. The next one is for that levator scapula muscle that we talked about. Okay. So if you tilt your head to the side in that same exact position that we just did, and then look down towards your opposite armpit. So you're going to feel that in a similar area, but it's going to kind of go down more down the back of your neck. Okay. So if I'm stretching my right side, I tilt to the left and look down to my left armpit. Okay. And that's going to stretch that levator scapula muscle. Okay. And then you can switch sides. Again, do 3 rounds of 30 seconds on each side, 3 times a day, 10 seconds on each side, every couple hours throughout the day, just to get you in those better positions and get that muscle feeling a little bit better. Okay. And then the last one I have, this one, the form's a little trickier, but it feels really good. And can get at those scalenes muscles a little bit. Okay. So we're going to be in the same position. The great thing about all 3 of these is they all start in the same position. So if you're in that same position, let's work on the right side first. Again, you're going to tilt over to the left, and then you're going to look back to the right. Just like that. And you're going to feel that more on the side and back of your neck, right? Like almost like right behind your ear, right? Like between like your ear and your shoulder is where you're going to feel that one. Okay. Yeah. And you probably don't have to, if you tilt over, you probably don't have to turn your head much, and you're going to start to feel it in that area. So yeah, you want to tilt your head first and then look back, and you'll be able to feel it there. And you are going to get a little bit through that upper trap area and that levator scapula area too, if those areas are tight for you, but you should feel a little bit more on the side, right on the side of your neck. And same thing for that one, 30 seconds, switch sides, 3 rounds, do that 3 times a day. And you can do 10-second bouts on each side every couple of hours during the day for that micro stretching program. Okay. I found that that's not only a good way to keep us consistent with working on the flexibility in those key areas we need to work on. But it just kind of makes things feel good and gives you that little reminder to be in a position that's going to be better for you. Okay. Now there's obviously progression from this, right? We can stretch and stretch and stretch. And I often find, and Evan, I think you probably find this too, if people search you out for things similar to this, people tend to do a lot of mobility based things to deal with a problem that they have going on, whether they do massage or stretching or use heat or use a Theracane or a foam roller or whatever the case might be. Yes, Odell, good for the nervous system too. It's very good for the nervous system. But what we don't often do is combine that mobility stuff and the feel good stuff like the heat and massage with the right amount of stability, right? And then working into strength and endurance of the right muscle groups. That's the number one thing when people say, well, I've tried this, I've tried that, whatever the case might be. They haven't tried all of that or the most important parts of that, along with some good strength and stability type stuff. Okay. So these few things that we gave you here this morning are just sort of some foundational building stuff. And there are definitely some ways to progress that and secure it a little bit better, which is super important for the long-term success of a program like this. So Evan, did you have any other quick tips you wanted to give people?
Yeah. So you made a really good point, because when we do those stretches, we're ultimately lengthening muscle. So there's less tension and that, so the neck can move in the correct way. But like you said, we also need to incorporate the stability piece to it. So one of my favorite exercises actually to do is the face pull, because essentially what that does is, so basically I have a band in front of me. I'm holding it with 2 hands. It's like this. Essentially, as I pull it to my eyes, as you can see in my head position, and a huge thing when you do any of these kind of exercises is making sure that you have a good head position and that you're not letting yourself dip your head forward like this. Make sure we stay nice and upright, just like that, keeping the shoulders back, and then return starting position just like that. So this is one of my favorite exercises that I like to use with my clients for posture. But ultimately, whenever you're doing those kind of upper body pulling exercise, just making sure that you have the correct posture is really key to making sure that we get the most out of it.
Yeah, I like that. One thing you can do with that as well before we do that kind of that high pull, right, that Evan just showed, is once you get in this position here with your arms out, bring those shoulders down and back just a little bit. Okay. That's going to help not only work that muscle a little bit more with that activity, because that's a motion that's going to work that same muscle in a way that we're targeting with that shoulders down and back, but it's also going to prevent you from maybe irritating your shoulders or overusing these muscles to pull back. Right. So we don't want it to look like this, where your shoulders are going to your ears. You want to start out like this, shoulders down, and they stay down the whole time while you're trying to support that. Yeah, that's a great one. That's a nice, easy one that kind of takes that shoulders down and back thing to the next level. And you can do it anywhere, at your home office or watching TV or at a stoplight. Don't worry, other people looking at you, it's fine. They'll just think you're dancing or something. So that's an easy one to kind of envelop into your day, into your routine. So that's very good. Yeah. Awesome. Any questions on those things? Any specific questions anyone has for something they're dealing with that they feel like we could cover or clarify for you at all from what we've talked about today? Because I do want to give you all plenty of time to ask questions, and also want to provide a little thank you for those of you that joined us today too. So, before we get to that, I just want to make sure that everyone's clear and happy with what we've gone over here, and make sure you get all the information. Awesome. Okay. Well, real quick, I want to give Evan a chance to just talk a little bit about what he does. And I'm actually going to share my screen and just pull up Evan's contact information so that you can reach out to him if you have specific questions for him. So let me put that up. And then Evan, if you want to go ahead and tell us a little bit about EA Fitness and Performance.
So I'm the owner of EA Fitness and Performance. We are a personal training studio located in Falmouth, Maine, right off it. I don't know how familiar you guys are with I-95, but I'm right off at exit 53, right across from the Hannafords in Falmouth. So basically what we do, I'm also a certified nutrition coach. So that's something I do a lot with my clients is work with them on nutrition, really just kind of learning how to incorporate a healthy overall lifestyle with the mindset, the food, and the exercise. And, with all those things, a big thing for me is like, I'm in it for the long run. So like when I'm working with them, I focus on creating a lifestyle that's actually sustainable for them, that they can carry on for the years to come, so they can live just a better overall quality of life. So that's what we do. And thank you again, Dr. Phil Finemore.
Yes, of course. Thank you for helping promote this and having me for the workshop. That's great. And so please, by all means, take a look at Evan's contact information, screenshot that if you want to get a hold of him. This is my information here. I own WorkFitME Mobile Physical Therapy. So I'm a fully mobile physical therapist where I bring that care to my clients. I've also been using a lot of telehealth options, especially for some of these sort of ergonomic work injury prevention type services. I've found that I've been able to reach out and have a positive impact on a lot of people that aren't even in the sort of greater Portland, Southern Maine area with these types of services specifically. So really, really passionate about helping people not have to suffer through things that are very, very treatable and preventable if we get at them the right way, and the earlier the better. So if there's something that we've touched on today that kind of struck a chord with you, or is something that you've have dealt with or are dealing with, you want to make sure you don't deal with it again, definitely reach out and let me know. And as a thank you for being on the workshop, I always like to open a spot or two on my schedule for an initial screen so that we can individualize this program a bit for you. I do have 2 of those open here over the next couple of weeks for people. Normally that screen would be $180, but for the workshop, I've dropped it down to $80. So I'm going to take $100 off as a thank you for joining and watching the workshop, so that we can take those couple things we talked about today, individualize it specifically for you, and make sure that you've got the tools that you need moving forward to make sure this isn't a problem. Again, interfering with your ability to earn a living or your ability to enjoy that living that you've worked so hard to earn for yourself. So if you would like to do one of those screens, please let me know in the chat here before the call ends, and I can get you one. And we can talk about how we can get that scheduled as well. But yeah, Evan, thank you very much for partnering up with me and giving some real good information to some people that I think will help a lot of people that are dealing with this type of stuff right now.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. No, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, that is all we had here. Great. Odell. I will reach out to you because I know I have your contact information. So I'll reach out and we can chat about logistics of that. Great. Well, thank you everybody. And hope you go enjoy the rest of your Saturday. It's going to be absolutely beautiful here. So enjoy. Thank you. And don't hesitate to reach out to us specifically with questions. Okay. All right. Awesome. Thanks everybody. Have a good day.